Good afternoon. Thank you. I welcome you to the presentation of the 2012 NJIT Overseers Excellent in Research Prize and Medal. I am Joel Bloom, President of NJIT. It is my great pleasure to greet those with us today on campus and viewers who have just joined us on the internet. This year's ceremony is also being recorded so that it can be viewed later on the NJIT website. I would especially like to acknowledge the members of the NJIT Board of Overseers who are present. If you would all please rise. Thank you. I also would like to acknowledge a couple other honored guests. James Geller is the College Research Award winner from the College of Computing Science. Jim, Professor Geller, please. And although they stood with a group of overseers, they deserve special acknowledgement. One of the innovators of this prize and chair of the prize committee and founder of this prize, Emil Herkert, please. Emil. Also members of the committee, please stay standing. Erwin Doros, Lawrence Gardner, please. Ian Gatley, our provost, thank you. Phil Rinaldi, please. And Don Sebastian, our Senior VP for Research and Development. Thank you. Research, along with education and service, were the founding elements of NJIT's mission statement. In the mid-1960s, we added a fourth mission element, economic development. Today, melding research and economic development is a focus for NJIT, and it's beginning to build part of what is being called the ecosystem for research and business development. The end product of that, and it relates very closely to our prize winners' work, is commercialization. NJIT is building its ecosystem with the expectation of increasing jobs and economic growth in the state and in the region. NJIT has achieved recently a growth of its research expenditures to nearly $102 million through the work of our tenure track faculty, our research faculty, and our research centers. We have 154 patents that we're counting. We have seen the growth of our EDCs, which include the oldest and larger 90 incubator companies, 300 student employees. Those companies did a little over $82 million in expenditures this past year and $67 million in third-party support. They also employ about 300 of our students. So again, it's crossing the transom, if you will, of what's happening here at the university and the incubators and our research faculty. As New Jersey's comprehensive science and technological university, we are home to a wide range of research. However, we are focusing on three thematic interdisciplinary research areas: digital everywhere, sustainability, and the convergence of the life sciences and engineering. This past year, as a result of an effort of many good people, provost deans, and our faculty, we have hired 16 new faculty in these areas to help us conduct our research and inform our students through education. Many of our existing faculty are focused on these areas as well. Research Professor Reginald Farrow, the winner of the 2012 Board of Overseers Excellence in Research Prize and Medal, is an exemplar of this effort. I want to thank again all of you. Welcome to this ceremony, and I look forward to its continuation. At this point, I would like to invite the Chair of the Board of Overseers, Phil Rinaldi. Phil, please.
Thank you, Joel. This is a great pleasure for me, and the fact that it's become an annual event has made it even more pleasurable to know that we have this kind of productivity in our research departments here at NJIT. I've always known that this is a great school and a great university, and I'm proud to have chosen to study here. And I graduated in 1968 as a chemical engineer, and then some decades later joined the Board of Overseers. And you know, since that time, I have become so much more involved in understanding the level of pioneering research that's engaged in here, and so many fields are covered in the entire STEM technologies. So I wholeheartedly endorse the idea of a grand research award when it was first proposed by my predecessor as chair and by my good friend Emil Herkert. Please. Emil's vision to create this Excellence in Research award was really with great foresight, because we could see now how, after just a few short years, it fits like a glove with the mission of this university. And so we're pleased to have it, and we're very pleased this year to bestow this on Professor Farrow. And excuse me while I flip my page here and don't lose my track. Professor Farrow's research has focused on today's technologies, focused on things in the nanoscale. I mean, this is a scale, this is things so shorter than the attention span of the typical teenager, you know, so this is crazy, you know, a billionth of a meter in diameter. This can allow batteries the size of molecules, probes that can create new insights into the physiology of living cells. There are therapeutic devices that are kind of in the drawing board that are going to use oxygen and glucose in your own body to stand there and diagnose and repair injuries. Really important kind of research, so we're very proud of that. So President Bloom and I now have the honor of presenting Reginald Farrow with the award. Please come. Good, secure closure, I can guarantee that.
The invention of Velcro.
Don Sebastian, please. Am I? I'm sorry. I shorted yours. It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, actually. Thank you, Dr. Bloom, Dr. Rinaldi, Board of Overseers, for this honor. I'm actually quite humbled, but I'm also very, very proud, and I'm proud of the team that we put together to do this work, the people who actually did this work. And before acknowledging some of them, though, I'm going to acknowledge my family, because sometimes people forget. Okay, my wife is here, Kim Trahan, and she is even more than my biggest fan and confidant. She's the person who keeps me grounded and also keeps me mindful. I also have my sister and my nephew and my brother-in-law, my brothers-in-law, and other family, friends, and colleagues who are watching on the web. I thank you so much for sharing this moment with me. It is, through your support that I've been able to do this. So I really appreciate that. I have a great passion for this research, and it started actually with a conversation, a visit to NJIT. When I wasn't in this business at all, I came to visit Gordon Thomas. And when I left that visit to his lab, I went back and I started thinking that there might be a way to combine what it is I know about making very small things, about nanotechnology, and some very difficult problems in biophysics and biomedical engineering. And these ideas were kind of gelling for a couple of years before I was fortunate enough to be invited to come here and be a research professor and work with Gordon Thomas. And Gordon and I had known each other for about 100 years. That's in student years, actually. And so it really started something going. It really started at NJIT, the entire idea. NJIT is actually a very fertile place for these ideas to take root. And Gordon introduced me to Bill Hunter, who was chair of the biomedical engineering department. And Bill Hunter, among other things, taught me how to teach myself cell biology. And he also introduced me to the people who were really good in cell biology so that we could blend together what we knew and come up with an idea that ended up being a grant proposal to DARPA, which was funded. And that started, and I'm not going to tell you what's in the video. I'll let the video tell what we did, but that started something, and then other DARPA grants and RDEC grants, and many, many people became part of this program, and we made some very nice things. So my idea was to use nanotechnology to study cells, and this is what got the program going. So Bill Hunter introduced me to Roman Shirokov at UMD&J. He also introduced me to Greg Bonder, who's the chair of the biology department at Rutgers Newark. These are the people who we got the ideas going with. Other people in the team were Camelia Prodan, Linus Fetter, who was at Bell Labs, who actually made the very small features that you're going to see in the video. Ashraf Alam in electrical engineering at Purdue, Edgardo Farinas in chemistry at NJIT. I think you're getting the point. It took a lot of people. But the least of which, actually the most important of which, was Zafar Iqbal, because Zafar and I have been working together very closely, and he understands how to make the carbon nanotube. And together we actually make it work to do some very beautiful things. So this has been a team effort from the beginning. And I also have to include in that team the wonderful support that I've gotten from Don Sebastian's organization. They've helped me all along the way from the beginning in securing grants and then patenting the work that we discovered. So I have a one-line thing in my notes here, which says, acknowledge Alokik. Alokik Kanwal, who's the guy who really did all of this, came here as a postdoc. And it was the most valuable thing that we at NJIT did, because he took over this idea. And he's the one who made most of the items that you're going to see in the video. And he took over not over the idea, he took over the students, he took over the lab, and he did a really good job. And so I want to acknowledge Alokik and get him to stand up. And he didn't know I was going to do this, but and I want to talk about some students too. Amit Goyal, Sheng Liu, Sean Lakshmanan, Karina Bhatt, and Anita Patlola, they all contributed to this work on the road to getting their PhDs, some in other topics. Amit was the one who actually discovered the way to put the nanotubes where we wanted them. And I think, as I say to him when he left, that we may all end up working for him. These are all very talented students, and I bring this up not just because I had the pleasure to work with them, but they were NJIT students, and they are very talented students. And one of the things that I believe that we do at NJIT is we transform students. This is a transformational experience that a student gets at NJIT. And I love that part of it. I don't think I'd be doing it if the students weren't here. It just wouldn't work. So we have had students ranging from PhD students to undergraduate students to high school students who have worked on these projects. And each one has contributed in their own way. I'm going to point out Nick Baconich, who actually took the data that you're going to see of the cells communicating this summer. He's a student who just graduated from Ramapo and who's off to graduate school now. And others who did the same sort of thing, who came in and just spent a few months and actually discovered something. So this is really why it works here, is because we have talented students. Finally, I do want to repeat that this is a great passion for me, my research. And I envision the great science that it can spawn. And I see this award not just as for the research accomplishments, but as an acknowledgement by the NJIT Board of Overseers of the importance of this type of vision. And I and my team are very honored by this recognition. So I thank you very, very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donald Sebastian, Senior Vice President for Research and Development at NJIT. Reggie, I have a letter here from Newark Mayor Booker that's just arrived. He asked that I read it in its entirety, and that's an offer I can't refuse. It reads, "Congratulations, Professor Farrow. I recently heard of your incredible discovery and your receipt of the 2012 New Jersey Institute of Technology Overseers Excellence in Research Prize and Medal. Your work in the lab that will greatly expand knowledge of the electrical properties of individual human cells has broad applicability, ranging from the improvement of power sources such as fuel cells to the medical advancements such as targeted drug delivery and less invasive physiological monitoring. Your work in the classroom, which is of equal note, is preparing the great minds for tomorrow who will, standing on your shoulders, continue your work and the work of others. As Newark, New Jersey, and this nation stand at a crossroads, presented with the choice of whether to make the investments and commitments necessary to continue leading the world in innovation and ingenuity in science and technology, you provide a shining example of what can and must be done. You have my best wishes for continued success and my deepest gratitude for all you are doing to advance scientific research in Newark. Sincerely, Corey A. Booker, Mayor, Newark, New Jersey." In just a minute, you'll see a video in which Professor Farrow describes in his own words, his research accomplishments. He does it, and already has done it, far better than I could, and it will be immediately self-evident why he is this year's winner of the Overseers Medal. There are a few important themes I want to highlight before we start. Watch for wonderful examples of both discovery and invention. The first is the classic role of the scientist, and the second of the engineer. Reggie's work has produced important insights to electro-hydrodynamic behavior on a molecular scale, and many would be content to stop at achieving basic understanding. But Reggie's shown a unique ability to convert understanding into invention. He turned fundamental concepts into a platform technology that offers to solve important problems with broad applications. Perhaps he has the intellect of a scientist and the soul of an engineer. These inventions include new medical device technology, creating cellular probes, fuel cells powered by the sugar in the bloodstream, and even an artificial pancreas. When we talk about the convergence of the life science and engineering, this is a shining example. The use of carbon nanotubes to create vertical transistors and three-dimensional electronic circuits with orders of magnitude reduction in size and power demand of computing chips will in fact drive the revolution that we call digital everywhere. And if that were not enough, his technology combined with another faculty's inventiveness can produce molecular scale solar cells with integrated power storage, forming appliques that can transform anything exposed to the sunlight into a reliable power source. And finding solution to our global thirst for energy tops the list of needs in our third university theme, sustainable systems. So as we focus our university resources to address these three transdisciplinary themes, it's remarkable to have a strategic trifecta coming from one person contributing to every one of these areas. These inventions would not have been possible if Reggie were not also aggressively collaborative. You heard in his remarks the wonderful team and the wonderful relationships he's built. Each were derived from an active partnership with other researchers here, and those collaborations spanned our departments and our colleges. You can learn more about these in a copy of the fall 2012 NJIT magazine that's on your seats. And for our web viewers, under the homepage link to news, you can follow it to the NJIT magazine. If past is prologue, then one of Reggie's earlier collaborations predicts a bright future. Professor Farrow worked with Gordon Thomas, professor of physics and biomedical engineering, to create a unique device for treating individuals suffering from hydrocephalus or other brain injuries that require insertion of a shunt. I'm pleased to share with you all the news that their recently patented smart shunt has been selected as one of this year's Edison Patent Awards. The Eddy will be presented by the New Jersey Research and Development Council at their annual awards dinner next month at the Liberty Science Center. Now, let's take a look at the video that's been prepared to honor Professor Farrow on this special day.
My name is Reginald Farrow. I'm a research professor at New Jersey Institute of Technology and Physics. I'm working in a very interesting area, which is to try to understand how a cell functions at the nanoscale. We've been able to take traditional technologies, package it into something which is really a lab on a chip. But along the way, we did something very interesting, which was we created the world's smallest biofuel cell. There's a whole area in biology called cell electrophysiology, and it's understanding the electrical nature of the cell. The one main tool that's used for that is called a patch clamp. Drug companies use this tool to understand how to keep cells healthy or to be able to target particular cells that we would not like to see healthy, such as cancer cells. At some point it came to me that it would be really nice if you could more than just look at the cell, which is what we do with microscopes, is if you could touch the cell. If you touch something with your finger, you can kind of get a sense for what it's about. But imagine if you could touch it with all 10 fingers. Okay. And then imagine that maybe you want to touch the same cell with 1,000 fingers. And you immediately come to the problem, how would you make something like that? Our vision was to create a device where you could actually understand what the cell does electrically in a way that nobody's ever done before, which is to measure it from multiple places in and around the cell simultaneously, while the cell functions, while the cell moves. Imagine making a whole platform, with billions of these probes, so large that you could look at groups of cells interacting. This type of program is not possible without a team. It requires several expertise in several different areas, ranging from biology to physics to chemistry to pharmacology to electrical engineering to mechanical engineering, they all fit together, and they have to be there in order for this type of vision to be realized. One of the key collaborators was Zafar Iqbal. It was his carbon nanotubes which started this project, and his understanding about how you grow and how you manipulate carbon nanotubes. And so without that expertise, none of this would have really happened. To people who are working on this area who understand what a nanotube is, it's only 1 nanometer in diameter. If you just want one, you might think, drill a 1 nanometer diameter hole and let it grow there. The first attempt at this really failed, and the holes were far too large for us to do what we wanted. I'd seen something at a conference where people were using another technique called electrophoresis to deposit nanotubes. And we tried it. We did the first experiment, and the graduate student showed me a picture that he took in an electron microscope, and there was just 1 nanotube in the hole. And the implications of that were huge when I first saw it, because I can make something that people will actually be able to build and use. We can make the package very, very tiny. We can make it tiny enough that it could actually possibly, in a far, far future, float right in your bloodstream and draw its power from the sugar that's already there and do its diagnostics on the fly. Really a lab on a chip. As we understood that we could actually position carbon nanotubes repeatedly where we wanted, then we had a toolkit. And it kind of led in an interesting direction, because my collaborator, Professor Iqbal, was already working on a variation of this same effect in the macro scale. He was making something called a biofuel cell. But he thought that there might be a more efficient way to put in the nanotubes to get even more power out of this device. I realized at the time that we could also continue on the same path we were doing for the cells and make the whole biofuel cell very small. And as it turns out, in the field of fuel cells, getting your electrodes close together is very, very important. It determines how much power you can get out, because you lose power in that distance. All of these things integrated together and worked. We made a biofuel cell, the world's smallest biofuel cell. And as expected, it had 100 times more power density than anything that had ever been fabricated before. The big breakthrough was putting 1 nanotube in a hole, which you can make with all today's technology. That means you can use all of today's technology to scale it up. Imagine you could run your cell phone on something like sugar water. That's the type of technology that we're driving this towards. That's what my research is about. In a world of very, very large things, with a mega scale of everything, we find that there's enormous power in the tiniest of things.
So Reggie, on behalf of the Board of Overseers, the entire NJIT community, and on a deeply personal level, I want to congratulate you for the fine work, the accomplishments that we recognize by the honor that we bestow on you today, and ask everyone one more time for a round of applause. This concludes our formal program. I invite you to join us for personal congratulations, reception for Professor Farrow in the University Club right next door. And for our web joiners, I'm sorry that you won't be able to partake in that. Have a virtual drink on us. Good night, everyone.